Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's panel. Today we'll be discussing climate action and nature-based solutions, scaling innovation for people and planet. My name is Louise Mabulo. I'm a United Nations Young Champion of the Earth, a member of the Climate Overshoots Commission's Youth Engagement Group, and also the founder of my own initiative called the Cacao Project, where we work to build sustainable agroforests for farmers in the Philippines. Now, as the urgency of the climate crisis and biodiversity crisis intensifies, scaling up nature-based solutions is more essential than ever to build resilience for vulnerable communities and protect fragile ecosystems worldwide. This session will highlight pioneering initiatives that bridge traditional knowledge, community leadership, and cutting-edge technology to restore landscapes and safeguard biodiversity. So we'll get lessons from regenerative agroforestry practices in Madagascar, women-led conservation efforts in Brazil, jaguar protection in Mexico, exciting, and the transformation of degraded lands into thriving ecosystems in Africa that will highlight the power and potential of scaling community-driven efforts to accelerate climate action. So I'm joined here on stage with my incredible panelists. We've already had a really vibrant chat off stage, and I hope we get to bring that energy on stage today. So with me today is Camille Romain de Boscs, General Director of World Vision France. We have here Leticia Benevides, Founder and Executive Director of Pro-Onça Institute in Brazil. Regina Cervera, Manager of Nature Innovation Programs of Sea Mines, and Nicolas Kompalic, President of Canopy Energies. So I wanted to, before we dive into my questions for this discussion, I'd love to hear from our speakers a quick, maybe tweet-sized or tweet-length-sized introduction of you and your work and why you got into this industry in the first place. Let's see. Nicolas, would you like to start us off?
As we say, ladies first, so I will start. Okay, I'm in charge of Canopy mainly to develop a renewable project. And right now we are developing a large reforestation project in Madagascar with the target to plant 1 million trees. We just crossed the 1 million first line. Why we do this is to be part of the climate transition. We do think it is important to do so, so we are here to be part of it.
Amazing. Regina, after you.
Hi, I'm from Mexico, now based in Ecuador, second time in Paris. So I'm a biologist, and at Sea Mines, which is the organization I represent, we're a Mexican grassroots women-led think tank that's been working on scaling innovation from a Latin American perspective and seeing innovation as technological, from processes, governance, regulatory innovation, and co-building multi-actor ecosystems that are mainly based in Latin America around bridging all this knowledge around technologies, around AI, around everything that's happening around the world with the local territories and local voices, so that policymaking and decision-making can have an impact on the ground from the bottom up. And well, the jaguar has been our main source of inspiration and leadership and guidance in this work from the past 5 years now.
Leticia?
Hello, everyone. I'm Leticia from Brazil. And as Regina said, it's all about the jaguars. So you ask ourselves, what made us to be here? It's about jaguar conservation. But then we understand that we cannot talk about jaguar conservation without talking of the people who live there and the lands of the people who live there. So in this path, I understood that rural communities should be empowered and they should understand the importance that they have in conservation. So I'm the founder and executive director of Pro-Onça Institute, that is a woman-led organization in Brazil, and we work with jaguar conservation, also conservation of their habitats, and empower women in science. And also we do that combining with art, and you use mainly movies and short documentaries to reach more people. Thank you.
Hi everyone. This is Camille from France, as you can hear with my accent. So at World Vision, we are not about jaguar, but we are about children, the most vulnerable children in the world, and our mission is to help every child and to grow in all its fullness. So we have a lot of projects in emergencies and crisis contexts, but we also help the family to raise their children in better conditions. And to do so, of course, you do have to take into account the environment. And we know that today, currently, 1 billion children live in areas affected by climate change, by degraded land, etc. So we are very happy to be there and to share a very simple and very efficient way to regreen landscape, the farmer natural FMNR, farmer natural farmer-led regeneration. Sorry, I'm used to do it in France, which is cheap but very effective solution, and which has been proven in many cases.
No, that's incredible, because we're at Paris Peace Forum, and so security comes in many different forms. And I'd like to think as well that some of the solutions don't have to be super complicated. And I mean, Leticia, going to you, what is the single most crucial shift in policy or practice that needs to happen to ensure that women-led conservation is not just symbolic, but holds genuine, permanent decision-making power over the landscapes that you protect?
Well, it's truly about inclusivity, but if you think about the source of that question, I should say that it's about making the women understand the power of ownership. They should be owners of their own land, of their own rights, and mainly about their own work. And how we can do that, how we can make women understand that they are owners of their land. It's a really tricky question. And to answer that, we need to make sure that everybody understands the context. So I'm talking about rural people and rural women. And they are illiterate or have no formal education. It's all over the globe, but I'm talking about Brazil, right? In the Cerrado, where I work. And these women, even though they have no formal education, they have a lot of traditional knowledge, and they are the ones who knows how to make sure that their family are being raised right. They know their land. They know how to plant and what to plant in each time of the year and how this should be done. But even though they do know that, they don't know, they do not have an active voice and place in the decision-making process. So what we do is make them understand that with the skills and education, they need to know about their own rights and about the land that they live. So it's basically about a open process. Once people understand, these women understand their own rights and they claim for it, you're gonna have a whole change system beginning. And I can give you a practical example of that. Is that we work in a rural place called Cacaozinho de Goiás, and we have like these meetings, like routine meetings, to talk to them about the management of the park. We work there. And in the beginning of this project, 2 years ago, it was an audience mainly of men. So we only have men there. Of course, women were present, but they were present as somebody's wife, or as somebody who is going to take care of the children. But they are not there as leaders. They were not there to give their opinion about what should be what should be done. And this is really hard because this impacts her. Everything that happens there impacts their land and their rights. So we start doing a really basic educational process. And what happened is that after a while, of course, we cannot change the national education system we have in Brazil, but we can change this in a local scale. And what happened is after 2 years, now we have more women present in these meetings. And they are not only present there, but they are there to be, to represent what they want and what they think that should be done. And now they also claim their rights for the mayor, for example. So as you can see, it's something that starts as a local action and can be scaled up in a state, and then afterwards in a national scale. So once these women, they understand their rights and how everything can be how all of this is related to their lives and the impact that they have in other generations of their daughters, their grandsons and everything, they understand how this can be different. Thank you.
No, beautifully said. I mean, something that kind of hits really close is that we think of AI and technology and solutions with our head, but a very big part of it is with our heart as well, putting faces beyond the numbers and the data. Something you mentioned was inclusivity, ownership, and being context specific to the places that you work in, which moves me over to Regina. I mean, how does AI for climate and biodiversity move beyond just simple data and just the collection to fundamentally accelerate the scaling of nature-based solutions? For instance, by rapidly identifying prime restoration sites or modeling community impact in a way that human analysis cannot, but also combining the very human aspect to it.
Yes, thank you. And I think it feels really beautiful with what Leticia was sharing. And yes, I mean, AI efficiency, right? We can make all of these analyses that will take a lot of time, integrating technology. So we've been working for many, many years on collecting data that's normally, as biologists, manually interpreted, manually processed. And then when decisions come, it's been a while, right? So we started working with that because we were having a really rough year in Mexico with 2 hurricanes hit us, and then the most long-lasting flooding season in the year. We were seeing flamingos near the city, so everything was changing that year. And we thought this is a really good opportunity to start measuring this and what happens the next years, right? It went beautifully. We involved local communities, so monitoring decisions were made based on the dreams of one of our local leaders, where he was dreaming he was being a jaguar, and also knowledge from former hunters and poachers that are now part of the conservation process, right? So what we got, for example, is we managed to expand a natural reserve, and that's fantastic results, right? But we've learned so much along the way that these technologies can inform these processes, that local governments can involve these processes. And in Latin America, it's really hard to streamline technologies in the governments, right? We have many, many issues to solve first, and then integrating technology, right? And then, yes, this reserve got expanded. We felt so happy about that. And there's many, many people there. There's cattle ranching. There's people that need to grow their food and to feed their children. And then these new policies, right, historically can overlook the rights of the people, overlook the rights of nature, right? So we've been wondering and exploring and expanding our understanding of the roles of these technologies to amplify rights of the nature, rights of the people that live there. Now we work all over Latin America because we learned a lot. We are working, and jaguars were there all along. It all started because we started spotting jaguars in an area that jaguars were not there before. And then, of course, hunting and poaching started. Okay, so now we found amazing projects all over the country that are doing similar things, that are trying to connect with these species. So it's easy to connect with jaguars, right? It's easy to connect with charismatic mammals. We come from them, right? So it's easy to connect with those species aside of their incredibly important ecological role, which I can go on their ecological importance, but their cultural importance and the identity that gets lost when we lose the jaguars, right? And the presence of jaguars, as we see it, should be equal to well-being. So if there's jaguars, there should be healthy forest. Healthy forest should mean healthy people, which is not always the case, right? So all of a sudden we got to the Amazon rainforest, we got to Ecuador, now I get to live there and be close to the people and start seeing facts like there's not healthy people in healthy forest, right? Because climate change and all of these other things from mining, from oil extraction are getting into the once healthy forest, right? So what we're trying to understand is, okay, how can these technologies help us track jaguars, see the individuals, name them, give them, these human-created identities, right, that we can connect to, and understand if they're trying to run away from these threats, that we're seeing them in different places, that we can connect. So us, people that work in conservation, and hopefully there's people that do that as well here, we're very jealous with our data. right? Because it costs a lot of money to get that data. We're working with camera traps, bioacoustics, GIS, you name it, and it's costly, yeah. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of knowledge, and then you have all of this data that's really hard to manage. Really, there's a lot of bottlenecks there. So we thought, okay, first we need to address those bottlenecks and make sure that this data management, it's easy, and that first it was us biologists can, easily use it. Then it was not only biologists, we need the people on the ground to be able to manage their own data, not only collect the data, because that's, I felt at some point like discriminatory, right? So the people on the ground, they do the data collection, and then we analyze the data because we are the experts, and then we return the data. That's not the case. I don't think that's correct. I think they are the ones that should be doing the whole process. So we've been working for 2 years as well in the Amazon rainforest on capacity building for indigenous youth, on technology use for whatever they want to do it. Now one of our really amazing colleagues and friends from this school that we're working with is now on the Amazon flotilla, going to COP30, recording with drones and telling the story that they're doing. So I mean, whatever works, right? Whatever these technologies can really bring and help translating those messages from the bottom up and up bottom. I mean, transversal, right? I don't like using the bottom up or up down approach anymore. So I think it's more about, yes, these are tools. These are a point of entrance to something much bigger than just more efficiency, because that's how we see AI, right? More efficiency, more. When we need more quality, when we need these technologies to be a bridge between knowledge systems, between our Western knowledge and all the other knowledge that's out there, right? It's just different ways of seeing science. And so it started with jaguars, but now we want to say, hey, how about the spectacled bear? How about these other species that represent many things now? How about whales? How about these other beings that we can connect with and tell stories? So I think Leticia here could be a great ally on telling these stories, right? And connecting the dots between knowledge systems, technologies, different types of innovation. And also, yes, how can this communication and translation can get to the financing level? Because they need everyone in this area, communities, financiers, everyone in between. We all need guarantees. We all need transparency. We all need to make sure that our data is being used correctly and decisions are beneficial for everybody. And in this new outcomes-based financing world, so making sure that these projects can showcase their innovations and their results for this all financing world that's looking for due diligence, that's looking for many things that are so hard to comply nowadays, that they can do that, right? And they can speak a similar language that not only scientists speak, not only communities speak, and not only financiers speak. So yeah, that really moves us. And thank you.
Oh, that's incredible work, Regina. I think the things that you do in democratizing data is critical in this day and age. And it's not just looking at data from a science perspective, but breaking down silos that divide us from other industries like finance and different institutions. I think that's necessary. You also mentioned something about retrofitting solutions in countries where there are a plethora of challenges to solve, where nature-based solutions aren't the number one frontier. And I kind of want to go over to the making a business case for nature-based solutions. So obviously, all of this is wonderful, but there has to be a way to fund it in a way that's ethical, transparent. And so I want to go over to Nicolas. So Nicolas, what is the most significant challenge in creating a financial model where revenue generated from, let's say, renewable energy, which is in your line of work, directly and sustainably funds the long-term maintenance of regenerative agroforestry practices?
Thank you for the question. Just briefly to explain what we are doing is very easy and it's very simple. We are just planting a tree on deforested land with the target to produce vegetable oil. So globally, we have a negative carbon footprint and we are producing energy. we are doing that on deforested land. And to do that, we do think that we have to be viable, economically speaking, to maintain on the long term the forest we are trying to build. If we do this in only 3 years, we got some money for 3 years, it won't work. So at the end, we have to make the forest profitable on the long term. This is our opinion. And for that, we are producing vegetable oil, which is energy, and we have to sell it, and we have to find investor for that. Of course, we are helped by the carbon credit, but we do think that we cannot rely on voluntary action. We don't know even at the price we could sell it, and it's only voluntary action. So we do think that our target is to be profitable on the vegetable oil. But one thing is, it is fucking hard to compete to oil business. Except if you want to produce electricity. But if you want to compete to oil business on transport, on things like this is almost impossible. Just recently, 2 major oil companies among the top 10 in the world decided to reallocate their capital to oil industry because they are not making money enough on renewable energy. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that when you look at criteria for capital, profitability is the most important. So if the law is not making that change, if we don't have any things coming from incentive, policymaker, it will be difficult to do it. Right now, if you want to pollute, it's almost free. We just have to move the way we are consuming energy, up to me, in a way where we do all have to look at our carbon footprint. It's very important by this way we could reach a way where renewable energy makes more sense in terms economic because of policymaker. And this is right now the biggest challenge we are facing, to prove that our product is meaningful in the climate transition. But right now it's difficult. If you want to buy a plane ticket, you prefer to take the cheapest one. Everyone prefers to take the cheapest one. If there are no policymakers on that, we will never use biojet. So what we need is capital to maintain our need for our forest. We need to be able to sell our renewable energy, and this has to come from politics decision. This is what we think, definitely. It's a choice. We can ask voluntary action, which is great. We have a partner who help us, but I would say on a long-term basis, it's not enough. So it's really a question of choice from politics. There are some nice initiatives, but today, I would say, compared to 2 or 3 years, really difficult. When you look at the shipping industry, they just decide to postpone their decision, not to take decision, but just to postpone their decision in 1 year. About the carbon tax they could do. So to answer to your question, the idea is how we could move the economy by policy decision to use more renewable energy globally, other than oil energy, and to look very carefully at the way we are consuming our carbon strategy. Except that locally what we are doing is working well. To plant a tree is not that difficult. To maintain it, yes, it is more. So we need help on that. We need policy decision.
So thinking about what you said, it's about policy decisions. I think at an individual level, we also have a role to play in pressuring policymakers and living a lower carbon life, do you think?
Difficult when you look at humanity. I mean, it can take a long time, but I mean the plane business is a good things to look at. We have a strong growth on that, and everybody is saying that they are aware about the climate transition. But when you say you don't want to take the plane, they are looking at you and they say, oh, "Come on." So, of course, we should be all concerned, but the reality, it's not coming from us. So are we a child in front of that? Do we need policymaker? I don't know. But up to me, we need policy decision. I mean, it's like a red light on the street. I mean, we need red lights.
I mean, so that's the challenge of our generation, is moving towards a post-carbon world and having the decisions to safeguard us against it. Now, over to Camille. I want to ask, what is the most common structural barrier that you face when moving a community from successfully restoring degraded land? As you mentioned, it's one thing to plant a tree, it's another thing to maintain it, to possessing full autonomous resilience against future climate shocks.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just a few words on what we are doing at World Vision is FMNR, so Farmer Managed Natural Regeneration. So meaning that everything we do is regenerating the soil and making the trees back without planting any trees. So all the philosophy of FMNR is really to let the land come back, restore, through the management of those trees. So to go back to your question, it's again a question of rights and policy again. And the very first barrier is that in areas where we work in, it's the most vulnerable places, the most vulnerable families. Usually the policies are disabling policies, meaning that people even don't have any right to the land, and they are not the owner of the land. So even without starting anything, they don't even see the interest, of keep taking care of the trees because they are not the owner and it's not their land. So this is one of the big barriers, the lack of policy or disabling policies. For instance, in Niger, where we started this FMNR approach, interestingly, the farmers were owning the land, but not the trees. Interesting. So what did they do? During the night, they were cutting the trees because in secret. So it was really a damaging one. Instead of protecting the land, it was a damaging one. The second, and I think the biggest barrier and structural one, is that we work in areas where people are just trying to survive and just trying to raise their children. The life is very complicated, and currently with climate change, with post-COVID world, conflict, etc., people are just trying to survive. So the big challenge is regreening the mindset. This is a challenge, meaning that FMNR is a kind of philosophy. It's not like a technology. It's going back to a very simple idea. Where there used to be a forest, there could be again a forest. Usually in the soil you can still find some grains, some shrubs, some stuff. And if you protect them from human pressure and animal pressure, the trees can come back very rapidly. And in 20 years in Niger, it was crazy, 200 million trees were regenerated in 20 years. And it's the size, to make you an idea, it's the size of Switzerland. And it was visible from the moon. I mean, not from the space, not the moon. You see? So the idea is to help this very poor family to change the way they see the forest and to help them to dare to change. So the whole challenge is to accompany the risk and allow them to take the risk to do things differently. And the key here is to have a holistic approach to help the family to thrive, to help them to test, to try. So we do a lot of testing, piloting in communities. A lot, of course, to come back to my very first point, we do a lot of advocacy to push the state and the policymakers to make decisions and allow the people to feel part of the change. This is their land, they will protect it. And we do a lot to help them thrive through saving groups and encourage them to do a bit differently. And very rapidly, this is the results. I mean, when trees are back, water is back. The trees bring back also insects, biodiversity, better harvest, etc. The kids are better nourished, and this is what we are about at World Vision. So, as a conclusion, I would say, if you love children, you should love trees. And if you love trees, you love children. So, these two barriers are really the big ones, but we do believe we can tackle it and tackle them. taking into account the complexity of the systems. But yeah, it can work at a cheap price and without planting any trees. So let's spread the word to the world.
I love this so much. I feel like a common thread between all our discussions is that innovation in technology doesn't have to be your big, crazy AI, like forward tech solutions that are almost sci-fi. It's accessible. One of the points that you mentioned that I really liked is that, people can't think beyond survival, especially in the most frontline, climate vulnerable regions. In my line of work as a farmer, I can't teach other farmers climate change, environment, security, if they're living on hand-to-mouth, day-to-day subsistence. It's impossible. So one of the things that I advocate for is environmental psychology, where the better thing to do should be the cheaper, more accessible, more resilient, easier option. And that has to be the way it is. Unfortunately, the systems that we are in are structured so that it's harder for people to do the right thing. I think Nicolas also mentioned that is why no one thinks about flight tickets. It's the less accessible. So environmental psychology, but also the science of things. So one of the points that I think you mentioned was beyond science, going beyond language, that tech and innovation also exists in indigenous communities. A lot of ancestral knowledge and rural knowledge is actually innovative, is actually technology. It's just considered low tech. So one question to all the speakers, but I believe our three female panelists in the middle would like to answer this, is if you could mandate one policy change at a global development bank to better support your work, would you ask for more funding for local traditional knowledge, more funding for high-tech tools like AI and making that more accessible, or a mandate for co-creation between the two?
Yeah, I can start. I think that funding for local-based, simple, low-cost but so efficient solution, and a bit of technology to speed up the spread of good practices around the world. But let's stop thinking crazy and let's take the good things that already work and have been proven, and let's listen also. This is a key thing. Let's learn to listen to people. Let's listen to the elders. How was the land before? What your parents and grandparents used to do, and come back to things that has been forgotten but are so much valuable and so much so powerful.
That's beautifully said, Leticia.
If I may add on that, I completely agree, by the way, but I also think that everybody should start thinking about how we can change how the money flows. So it's not about co-creation or giving funding for one issue or the other, but mainly about making sure that the people, the ones who are making the decisions, they are the ones who receive the money. So for example, local families, local leaders, local women, young people, they should be the ones also receive this funding directly, not through big companies or big foundations, because they are the ones on the ground and they are the ones who knows what and how we should spend our money.
So yes, completely agree with all of them and with Nicolas as well, right? But we cannot just sit and wait for policy innovation and creativity from the policymakers and willing, right? So a lot of everything. So first, mindset, right? So working on the Amazon region. We've been working with this project, amazing project, monitoring, conservation, agreements, lower deforestation, lower hunting. It's so perfect, right? And we all said, well, fine answers, the community is ready to get the funding directly. And they're like, oh, you're sure? I think it's risky. They can spend the money in a wrong way. So first, we've seen a lot of, prejudices, racism. And everybody needs guarantees, right? The local communities, the financiers, everybody needs that. So yes, technology can be an enabler of that, of this communication. But we need more examples. We need to give the financiers more examples that yes, people is ready to implement the projects. People is ready to take on the challenge, right? We need capacity to create that. We need yes, we need to democratize access to these technologies and this knowledge, because you go online and nature tech courses, English. How about in Spanish? How about in Portuguese? How about in the over 60 indigenous languages that we have available in Mexico? Because if not, then it keeps getting really hard, and the knowledge keeps staying on one side of the corner of the coin and not the other. And I think it is about co-creation, right? And remembering that these investments, so in the end, nature is the most perfect technology that we've got. And I know it's romantic to say working with nature, but I think this is our next, hopefully, new real economy, and not the one that we live right now, right? When we understand that we can hopefully make profit out of regeneration and not out of exploitation, and that living in healthy forests are living in healthy people and living in healthy economies. So I think funding should go first on changing what we all think about. I don't know. It's a really hard question.
No, it is. It's a very challenging question. I mean, but one thing that I've learned recently was that for every dollar invested into nature-based solutions creates $32 worth of economic benefits, which is incredible. So it's becoming the easier, better thing to do, and there's an economic case for it.
Yeah, and the density, there are studies from the World Bank also, when the density of screen increases, the rate of child mortality decreases also, on the rate of conflict in the months following the evaluation. And just to add on, to build on your point, I do believe that technology can be an enabler, but we really should stop, and the institutions should stop with the idea of innovation. And let me share a story. We have discussed with very big stakeholder and sharing about the incredible result of FMNR. Millions of hectares regreen without planting any tree, with a very, very cheap price, right? And the answer was, oh yeah, interesting, but not innovative enough. Come on, Come on. So, yeah, let's be pragmatic. We have no time.
Someday, everything has to be green and regenerative and resilient. And we're moving into a planet where that's no longer a choice. Now, we have 8 minutes left on the clock. I think we can open it up for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. If anyone has any burning questions, anything to add, or work that you're doing across the world that you'd like to share, I mean, we'd love to hear from you. So let's see. Don't be shy. My panelists don't bite. They're amazing people. One here in the middle.
Hi, my name is Yan, and I'm actually a master's student in Sciences Po Paris in international development. And I have a question for Leticia, because you were talking about to ensure that money gets to the local community directly. But my question is about management, because as you mentioned, some of them did not go to a university, don't have special expertise. So how could you make sure that they can use this money in the right way?
Yeah. Hello, what's your name again?
Xian.
Xian. Nice question, thank you. So just to answer that, I can give you one example, but like in Brazil, in Latin America, I guess, the whole Latin America, we have a problem that we are not educated to think about our finances. Like we don't think about that. I found an NGO, and only now I'm learning how to manage my money. So it's like a long process. And if you already try to fundraise or anything, you're gonna see that it's really hard. Once you have your money, how you're gonna spend with it, it's like way more bureaucratic than what we think, right? So how I can tell to the women, hey, you're gonna receive the money and you're gonna do your project, and how they're gonna make sure that they deliver a good progress. They're gonna have a good impact in their communities and in the world, right? So we have this project that we teach women, older and younger young women, how they can make money and improve their lives out of conservation. And we use that with ecotourism. So we work in the center of Brazil, that is called the Brazilian Savannah, in Cerrado. And today the Cerrado is the most deforested biome in Brazil. And then I get there and I say, hey, you can make money if you take European people, North American people, or any people, but mainly are the Europeans who wants to go there and see birds. And you can make money to show them which species we have here. And then if you combine that with restoration, this is going to be even higher and you're going to be a higher impact. And they say, okay, we're going to do that. So they launch a website and we have Zelia, that is an example, and she's doing that in her own farm. And then she asked me, but how I'm going to manage that, the money? What I'm gonna do? And I said, I don't know, because I am also learning now. So to answer you in a really brief way is that we need to improve how we think about conservation. And we need not only talking about education in conservation, but we also need to educate them financially. And I am not the one who does that. We have somebody to teach them because, as I said, I am learning now. But we have experts on the field who can teach them. And we have a partner in Oxford, and he's also the one who all the time say, hey, I can help you with that. So all the girls, all the women, they have this kind of issue, this problem. They go with us, and I ask him, and they say, you translate that, and then they start understand. So it's a really small and pilot process, but I'm sure that once we have more partners and more people involved and more people willing to teach others how to do that, we can have this problem almost solved.
Beautifully said. Okay, I'm not seeing more hands for questions, so we have about 4 minutes on the clock. If I could get 1 minute from each speaker to give one quick call to action or takeaway from this panel on nature-based solutions, or one thing you want people to walk away with, what would it be?
Ladies first, once again. To be honest, I don't know. I think, up to me, climate transition is a big issue and that we don't really want to face. So I think that everybody has to act about it. It's not easy to do. It's easy to say. Everybody is saying it, but nobody is really doing it. And sometimes I am surprised when we talk about, for example, COP event, where everybody from the world is flying to one place without talking at all about the fact that they consume a lot of oil. So I'm surprised that finally, I would like everybody to act maybe a little more, that's all.
Yeah, that's a powerful one. Yeah, I just want to say that more technology, more nature, more reconnection. The climate crisis and what Nicholas is saying, it feels like sleepwalking into some kind of oblivion. And I think it's also a crisis of the spirit of the people. So yeah, more technology, more nature.
Well, my call for action is we cannot talk about conservation or climate change or agroforestry or any of these without making people understand that they are, in fact, the heart of any conservation issue. So like once me, you, everybody that is here, everybody all over the globe, once people understand that they should be aware of what's happening, they should learn not only about their own countries, but mainly about what's happening outside in the global south, in Africa, in, I don't know, Asia. And once people start understanding that they can be the ones who are going to make a change, even that is a small one, this is powerful. And that's my call for action.
Okay, I will say, try, don't give up, be pragmatic, and be bold. This is my call to action.
Short but very sweet. And I think that's a beautiful way to end this panel. I love this because it put a name and a face to all the reports, the technology, and the data. I felt like I was taken to every single part of the world that you were all in, and the ground operations that you do to make this possible. So thank you to our speakers. A round of applause, please, to our panel. And thank you to all of you as well for joining us here today. We'll all be off stage and you can also have a chat with our speakers, but we want to just have a moment of appreciation and thank you to Paris Peace Forum for inviting us and hosting an incredible panel. All right, have a good day.
Thank you.